There are films that are talked about in many circles that when you hear the name, it strikes fear and sort of anxiety when you mention it, very much like a boogeyman. The slight mention of it feels like a taboo. You hear people say that it's rough, it's nasty, it's not for the faint-hearted, and one of those films is Threads. Most notably remembered for its haunting artwork of a disfigured man wearing a cloth in a traffic warden's uniform, is a 1984 BBC drama co-produced with Australia, aiming to tell the story of the prospects and consequences of a nuclear war. It's certainly something very different from your typical 80s viewing from Auntie, but wow, does it leave a lasting effect. So today, I'm going to talk about Threads and why it's so brilliantly terrifying and very apt for today. So let's get into it. The film starts off pretty normal. It's set in Sheffield, the city is still, and the current home to the new run of gladiators, which the BBC always loves to talk about. It introduces you to the main characters, who are a family with this two young couple who have just found out they're expecting a baby. You might remember the leading guy from being the son in TV comedy Home to Roost, with the late great John Thor. But anyway, the thing that strikes you so much straight away is just how down to earth and relatable it is. It's just everyday people with everyday problems, which adds so much to the believability of it. From a family worrying about their daughter being pregnant to lads chatting up girls in the pub, it's just so normal. But lurking in the background of most of the opening is radio and TV broadcasts of rising tensions between the US and the Soviet Union in Iran. And at first, people don't take much notice of it. Again, it feels so normal because people have the news on in the background or walk past newspapers without really acknowledging or paying attention to what's going on. And the film continues at a steady pace with the talk of war and up in escalation replacing the family drama. You sit there with your heart in your mouth knowing something is going to go down, from doomsday prepping of people emptying shelves in stores to making shelters and group of counsellors in an underground shelter trying to make arrangements. There's a lot of spinning the plates here, but the film handles it miraculously. It all balls up to a point, so when the eventual mushroom cloud appears and what happens, it's a visceral and unrelenting moment. You see people dash into safety, damage everywhere, and most striking is a look of fear of a woman's face as the shock causes her to wet herself. It's all so human and so heartbreaking, so when the eventual fallout happens, you sit there with your jaw to the floor in anguish and horror as buildings lie in ruin, once havens of culture and people, is a desolate wasteland. It is truly terrifying to watch. The film builds this dread and sense of terror so brilliantly with these little pieces of text to bring you up to speed, kind of making you feel like you're in a government safe room watching it all unfold. There's these announcements that are very stiff upper lip in a British sort of way, very dry and to the point of preparing people for war and what it could mean with guides and videos showcasing what you should do with a dead relative, how you should wrap their body up and leave it out in a separate room. It's all so cold and horrific. The film just escalates so well. Even after the tragedy happens, it just continues with the gut punches, with images of burnt bodies on the street to people covering dead loved ones with cloth. In one of the more striking images is a woman holding a dead, burnt baby. It's horrifying stuff that would make even the hardest of people break down. It's a relentless experience. There's no knight in shining armor, no plot armor to save the main characters. People die. Men, women, elderly, children, and babies. There's no discrimination in war, and this film showcases it impeccably. It does this by killing off children as cold as it would an adult. It's brutal and so realistic. The film moves forward with how humanity and society moves on from negative health problems that shows people throwing up as the fallout causes effects on people's health as the years go on, and how the environment has changed for the worse. It's more terrifying than any post apocalyptic film or TV show with people looting, starving, and the counselors running the show pulling their hair out as they're trapped in and slowly dying whilst trying to divide out food, truly determining who lives and who dies. Police and the military rule with an iron fist, rewarding hard work with food and starving people as punishment, even killing people at point blank range. It's scarily un-British. The traffic warden on the front cover, funnily enough, is only in the film for like 5 seconds, and it sees him guarding a tightly packed prison with no emotion whatsoever. It's heartless and shocking stuff. The film's main character is a young woman called Ruth, and we follow her for the final third of the film as she survives being pregnant and trying to get by, whilst trying to find her partner who disappeared at the start of the disaster. We see her give birth to a daughter and eat the placenta of the child, and it's a shocking sight of showcasing how hard it is for food to come by with people rationed to just 500 calories a day, which is equivalent to a slice of bread and a jam tart. We pick up with Ruth some 15 years later after the tragedy, and nothing has changed, and things have honestly gotten worse. She's frail and blind, and eventually dies in front of her daughter, who shows no sign of emotion whatsoever. It really does show how desensitized the country has become to loss and trauma, as she's raped and expecting a child as well. We see more of the world and how broken it is. Children speak with broken English and people eat rats to survive. And to Ruth's daughter, this is all she knows, and it doesn't affect her in the slightest. The film eventually ends with Ruth's daughter expecting and going to some makeshift hospital to give birth, only for the baby to be stillborn, and it ends with the look of distraught and horror on her face, the first bit of emotion we ever see on her. It freezes on her expression for a while, then fades to the credits. Humanity is in threads, with no music playing over the credits. It's a rather somber ending and is a perfect amount of shock for the viewer to go through to let you catch your breath whilst the credits roll. For something that was made by the BBC and on a shoestring budget by both today and 80s standards, Threads is a groundbreaking, thought-provoking and utterly terrifying experience, one of the scariest things that I've ever seen. It will stay with me for a very, very long time, showcasing the true horror of war and a nuclear one at that. It was obviously made with the Cold War in mind, with the Soviet Union and the US. That was quite a thing to be worried about in the 80s, but it still feels so prevalent to this day. It's also very interesting to see how apolitical the whole film is for a topic as heavy as nuclear war and its effects. There's not really many politicians, if any, here. You hear them in the background mentioned, but it doesn't really state what side of the political spectrum are on. Similar to Top Gun Maverick, with how the enemy is just the enemy, I really appreciate that it shows it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, the nuclear fallout doesn't care. It holds up incredibly well, especially during this troubling time with escalating tensions and conflicts currently happening across the globe. It does all bring it home in a gut punch of a way. Apparently, they did show this in schools, which is shocking, and wow, those poor kids must have felt broken after watching this. I know I did, and after exiting the house after watching it, I looked at the sky and the surrounding area in a different way, and it made me appreciate it ever so more so. Because, as they say, you don't know what you've got till it's gone, a statement many world leaders could hear by today. On the topic of world leaders, this definitely should be mandatory watching for anyone who gets into politics and world leaders who have access to these very powerful and dangerous weapons. It just proves that there's no winners in war, and the prospect of pushing us back in the Stone Age just for someone's inflated ego is absolutely terrifying. To call Threads a docudrama is fair enough, but to me, this is a pure, full, unadulterated horror. One of the scariest things I've ever seen. It leads you into a false sense of familiarity, only to deliver one of the tense, haunting, and unforgettable things I've ever seen. Forget your slashes and psychological thrillers. Threads is the scariest film ever because it just feels so real. If you feel in the right frame of mind to watch it, certainly give it a go. It's superb, but be sure to have something light to watch on the side afterwards to cheer you up because you're gonna need it. Threads is absolutely well worth a watch, but again, viewer discretion advised. So there you have it. That's Threads, one of the most terrifying and brilliant things BBC has ever produced. A thing that will not only resonate now, but for years down the line. A truly powerful piece of filmmaking and highly worth a watch. So thank you ever so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. You stay safe, take care, and I'll see you all on the next video. Bye.